A glorious sounding instrument, Joseph. Bless your twisted heart. Greg Koch here, Wildwood Guitars, Joe Carducci. We're hanging out. It's Gretsch Day here in the secret laboratory beneath the Rocky Mountains. And I have in my hands here a 62 Chet Atkins Country Gentleman. Tell us a little bit about the history of this instrument and its current incarnation and anything else that comes to your twisted mind.
Absolutely. The Gretsch G number for this is the G6122-1962 Country Gentleman reissue, and there are appointments and features on this guitar that was resident from the 1962 Gretsch guitar that was being produced at that time. The guitar was also made famous by George Harrison with the double mutes on the Ed Sullivan Show in 1964. And I think probably the most important thing to touch on this guitar is the switching. I get asked about this all the time. You know, Gretsch is famous for the double switching on the upper bow. The switch closest to the strap button there, and of course that's a regular standard three-way selector switch. Up is the neck pickup, down is the bridge pickup,
right,
and the middle is both.
Got it.
Now that other mystery switch next to it is actually the tone switch. This guitar, Gretsch guitars that have two switches on the upper bow, what that means is that there's no rotary tone control down on the body of the guitar. This was definitely a Chet Atkins innovation that ultimately the goal was to be able to have preset tones to go to on the fly while he's playing and not have to fish for specific tones. So the way it works is that in its center position, like the way it is now, the tone circuit is completely out of the circuit. So the guitar is going to be as bright as it can possibly be.
Okay.
And then flipped down, that's equivalent, I would say, to like a rotary tone control on about 9. It just rolls off the high end. Flipped all the way up is like a rotary tone control on about 6. So that really gets bassy for some jazz tones.
Some chromaticism there, Joseph.
There you go.
It's good for your colon.
Anyway, so again, that's speaking of the tone, switch, affectionately known in the Gretsch community as the mud switch.
Mud switch.
Because really, and we embrace that affectionately because it does exactly that.
So it's like two little presets for a little separate tones that maybe Chet had in mind. They're like, well, every now and again, you see, I like to go here and doidle. And
there you go.
Doidle, of course, being a technical term, you're just going stoidle and doidle.
There you go.
I like it.
And even the value of the capacitors that we use to this date are the values that Chet had discovered and we maintained throughout the years. And again, it's another Chet Atkins thing.
So these are just volumes for the individual pickup, and then this is the master volume.
That's correct, of what's coming out of the jack. And of course, this mystery switch down over here is a kill switch. And so because the guitar is indeed hollow, if you had your amp plugged in and you're leaving the bandstand for any reason and you left your guitar on, it could very easily start feeding back. There you go. And it's just a kill switch. It also works as a great machine gun effect if you got a lot of high gain going on. There you go. And let's see, of course, thumbnail inlays, which is a real characteristic and identity to Gretsch guitars that are all our own. It's got a 0 fret, which maintains the height of a string, consistent up and down the neck. Grover Imperial tuners, and Bigsby tailpiece. And an interesting thing about this guitar, I'll share it with you. Let's turn it over. It's got the Gretsch comfort pad. Okay, and really, this was a clever marketing thing that Gretsch did to, Gretsch guitars. Now let's flip it back again. You'll notice that it has these sound holes. These are actually painted on. Back in the day, they were painted. These are now decals.
Okay.
And even Chet as you know, as you imagine Chet Atkins and his style of performing, he wasn't a rock and roll guy. He didn't play at extreme high volumes, but as his career was blossoming and his amplifiers were getting bigger and his audiences were getting bigger, he was playing louder. And there's no secret that that the idea of enclosing the body helped minimize feedback. But we still wanted to maintain that look, so that's why it's part of the makeup and identity of the guitar to add the sound holes, decals. But when you do that, the only way when you assemble the guitar, really it's like a fish in a bottle. I'm sorry, like a ship in the bottle, excuse me, right? So how do you get inside to mount everything? So if you flip it back over again, the back pad are snaps, which reveals a cover which is held on by screws that you can remove to get inside the guitar to install pickups and such. But really, it was really there for the mute system, because there's levers and pulleys in there that as you operate the mutes, you know, on this particular model, there's a double mute that on the upper bout, you can just mute the E, A, and D string if you're a thumb picker, whereas the G, B, and E string will ring out.
That's crazy.
Isn't that crazy? And boy, and if you got a band and you play Mrs. Brown, you've got a lovely daughter, you can flip the other mute and now you've got that sound.
I don't know that song, but we'll hear it. Sounds like a banjo.
There you go. And that's part of the makeup of the guitar and some of the appointments that makes it unique and special.
That is a trip. Let's hear the next pickup on this bad boy. Let's add a little heat. Bridge pickup. It's an awesome sounding guitar. Awesome sounding and looking guitar as well. And I like to see that it has for the Milwaukee goiter, that it pads it just right and adds a level of comfort.
There you go. That's why it's called a comfort pad.
Indeed. Well, Glorious, thanks for giving us the guided tour of this glorious device. Let us take a guided tour through some of the other guitars. We shall return, ladies and gentlemen, here at Wildwood Guitars. Greg and Joe, adios.